Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So I'm in DCS world today, and I wanted to take a look at the new Syria map in helicopters. So here we are. I've kind of just plopped down the 4 different choppers in random areas across this map to give this a shot. I thought it would be fun to get down here and get low and see what it looks like from a chopper. And I'm pretty impressed. Absolutely nothing to complain about. Just going to cruise up this coastline a little bit. Yeah, they really did a fantastic job of this. It's always fun taking out old Big Bertha here for a ride. It's a real fun helicopter to fly. Not too easy to master, but I seem to have fun with it. Kind of dig all the random traffic here. Guaranteed on every road you find a car or two doing their own thing. This looks like another example of some of the weird stuff that you see in here. Or no, this is like a feature. I don't know what that is. Is that a dam or something? There was another area that I was flying that it looked like there was a pyramid off in the distance, and it was just a random piece of terrain that looked like it had formed up in a triangle. Really strange stuff. So there are some weird things on this map in some areas. But the trees look fantastic. They've really done a great job of spreading this out and making it look believable. Alrighty, here we are now in the Gazelle. Get down in here and see what we have. It's a nice little chopper. Yeah, the best way to really see this scenery down low is to get in a chopper. Although I've seen some people take combined arms and just jump in a, you know, a wheeled vehicle and check it out, which is different. This is rather cool, though. Yeah, they really did a good job with this map. This is really impressive stuff. A lot of these cities are just amazing. Just cruising up the river here. Alright, here we are in the Huey now. And I believe this is Beirut. This is the airport here. It's really been a minute since I've flown the helicopters in DCS. I really enjoy the helicopters in DCS, but I haven't been doing a lot of it. I think I was just kind of burned out with DCS, and now that I have a new map and a new place to fly over, and I can create some new missions, I think it'll be fun. Amazing city. Just the level of detail that they've packed in here is really outstanding. Watch out for that tree. up and over. Cruise along the coastline here a little bit, get out of those streets. The streets are wide enough that you can kind of zip down there in a helicopter, which is rather nice. That was close. That looks amazing. You know, if you'd told me even 10 years ago that flight sims would ever look like this, I wouldn't have believed you. Was always hopeful, but never realized that things would ever look this good. Between this and what they're doing in Microsoft Flight Simulator, it's really a good time to be into flight simulation. It really is. So up ahead here, we're approaching the area where they had that like massive explosion in Beirut. That was very unfortunate. But it's also pretty wild that they actually have that building detailed so well. Like, this is the building right here that you see like blown in half. That was right next to the building that blew up. Like right there. That is wild. Yeah, this map is amazing. Super impressed by it. I still think the lack of content sucks, but my understanding is that Heat Blur are the ones that put out the missions for the Tomcat to be released with this. So that was really cool of them, and it goes to show how well they support their module. But if they had the time to do that, why didn't somebody else? Why didn't we get like a couple Viper missions or a couple Hornet missions at least? Something. I mean, in the past, they've released these maps and they've had, you know, a nice little variety of instant action missions to go with them. And yes, I know this is early access. I know this is the first release, but like, pretty sure the channel map even had more than this. Somebody was arguing with me that, you know, oh, I'm ranting, it wasn't Eagle Dynamics' fault, Heat Blur made the missions, blah, blah, blah. But Eagle Dynamics, at the end of the day, are the ones that say yay or nay to release a product. And I would think that they should aim a little higher. And, you know, even though this is a third-party thing from Ugra Media, it should be released with some content. It shouldn't just be a map. And if that means working with the other developers like HeatBlur and some of the other ones to create some content for the map, then so be it. It makes a better product at the end of the day, and this stuff isn't cheap. DCS World is the most expensive, in my mind at least, flight sim out there. One would argue that, X-Plane and all of its add-ons and whatnot, yeah, I guess you could spend more on an X-Plane. And now that Flight Simulator's out, you could buy add-ons for Flight Simulator and spend more. But I guess my point is in terms of modern combat simulations, this is the most expensive one out there. And yes, they do have some wonderful sales, but this stuff is still more expensive than some of the other options that are out there. That's a real nice building. I don't know what that is. Looks like some kind of like convent or church of some sort, Very nice. And that's just one example of many in terms of just the level of detail that this map is packed with. And as you move away from the city, now you get into the greener stuff. You get all these really cool valleys, and hills. Really just cool areas, I think, for flying choppers and evading stuff, You can really get down into these little valleys and kind of evade and then pop up. It's going to be fun. I really wish I had an Apache, but we do have the Kiowa coming. And I'll tell you what, I'm more excited about the Kiowa now than I was before after listening to the majority of the Fighter Pilot podcast episode with the Kiowa pilot. Listening to some of the different mission types and whatnot that they were, conducting and the things that they were doing really sounds like it could be a lot of fun in DCS. I only remember the Kiowa from Longbow 2. That was my experience with it. But, from the late 90s up into the early 2000s, the mission of the Kiowa had changed greatly. It ended up being not just a reconnaissance, but doing a lot of close air support because it was small and it could get into the areas a lot easier and more agile than, say, an Apache. And one of the things they were talking about on the Fighter Pilot podcast was how they did away with the Kiowa Warrior, and they really don't have another platform that is going to take over its job that is as capable as the Kiowa was. Sure, the Apache combined with a drone can do some cool things, but the Apache is much larger, much harder to maneuver versus a tiny little Kiowa. So there's definitely some differences, and it's going to be interesting to see what we can do and how much fun we're going to have with a Kiowa in the DCS environment. Really looking forward to that one now, more than before. So as you see, this is almost soothing for me, just to kind of fly around these valleys and kind of stay as low as you can, and then just zip around, and you see little cars going by doing their own thing. Really cool. Just kind of following the road in the valleys here. Yeah, I think I'm really, really happy with this purchase. Still bummed that the content is, MIA other than the Tomcat. But again, for me, it's a win-win because I love the Tomcat, and the missions that are provided are a lot of fun. So far, at least. The ones that I've flown, I can say. But I really have to learn the map and where some of the more cool-looking landmarks are and whatnot, and things that you want to see that's on the map. That's why I was suggesting before that it would be really nice if they had something like POIs on this map and that said, hey, you know, a little star on the map in the mission editor, and then you mouse over it and you can click and get more detail and go, okay, there's this landmark right here. There's this city right here, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. Versus me going to Google and try to look side by side with the mission editor and then Googling things with maps and trying to find stuff. These trees look really nice too. I like the variety in the trees. I almost want to say that tree looks a little different than most of the trees I've seen in DCS. I don't know if they've introduced any new trees, but I almost want to say maybe, because a couple of those look very different than the trees that I remember seeing in DCS. And I kind of remember about 3 or 4 variety of trees in DCS already, but a couple of these ones look a little different to me. I could be wrong. But this looks amazing. Really nice environment for helicopters, without a doubt. Alrighty, and lastly, here we are in the KA50. Now this is another corner of the map, I believe. This time, no, this is over here in the middle of the map. Okay. Oh, and by the way, this is what the map looks like. And they're expanding it for naval operations over this way, is what I remember reading at least. Alright, let's get back in here and do some flying. So this is more towards the center of the map with this large body of water right here. And again, I am no geography expert of Syria and the region in which this lies, but there's definitely differences in the terrain. I'm trying to remember, there was something out in the distance here that looked to me like a pyramid, and then when I came up on it, it really was not a pyramid at all. It was just a piece of terrain that was pushed up like a large triangle, and it had, like, you know, terrain on it. You know what I mean? It wasn't like texture of a pyramid or anything like that. There it is. Do you see that off in the distance? It looks like a pyramid, doesn't it? Yeah, it's a little misleading. I thought for sure this was some sort of pyramid up ahead. And maybe it's supposed to be, but it just didn't get textured properly. I really don't know. There's a nice little city off to the side there. Yeah, it's just the strangest thing, really. I have to admit, I really do like the update that they did in changing the cockpit in the KA50 a few months ago. It really looks so much nicer. There's a nice little city right there. Or village, or town, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of small to be a city, I suppose. Yeah, this is just the strangest thing, isn't it? It's probably an anomaly or a glitch in the map, is what I'm guessing, because no mountain is that triangular and sharp, you know? This looks rather nice, too. This looks like farmland, you know? Very nicely done. Just cruising across some fields here. But this is definitely not a pyramid, right? Like, what is that? And what did they do? That's gotta be a glitch. That can't be right. Because it looks like this same texture that's already on the flat ground here with just a little bit of hill to it, you know? little bit of elevation here and there to it, but not that. That's weird looking, right? And again, at a distance, that totally looks like some kind of freaking pyramid, but when you get close to it, you see that it's really not. And there's a road right next to it and everything. It's almost like it's a field that just ended up raised somehow or another. And there's another road right there next to it. Yeah, that looks weird, right? So I don't know what that's supposed to be, but it's definitely not a pyramid. And if it's supposed to be a pyramid, well, it clearly has the wrong texture, I would think. So as you can see, the terrain across this map is pretty varied. But even in this area that looks kind of wide open and like farmland, it still looks pretty cool. And they've peppered enough like trees and power lines and things throughout that you really don't get the feeling that there's an area that they missed, you know what I mean? Or that they didn't take any time to really bother with. I mean, again, except for that weird pyramid thing back there, but you know, in a map this big, I would imagine there's gonna be a couple glitches here and there, and it's in early access. I'll give them credit where credit's due. So that is the 4 choppers that are currently available in DCS World across various places of the new Syria map. I hope you've enjoyed this little tour and quick look at the Syria map with the 4 choppers that DCS has to offer. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to subscribe to the channel. That really helps the channel out. Feel free to leave some comments as well. That also helps the channel out. And hit that like button. So, as always, guys, thanks again. And until next time.